There is a chapter in life that nobody prepares you for. No one warns you about it. No one talks about it. And no one tells you what it means. Because this chapter doesn't look like success. It doesn't feel like progress. It feels like loneliness. You don't feel excited anymore. You don't feel understood. You don't even feel sure of yourself. The noise around you fades. The people you used to talk to every day slowly disappear. And suddenly, it's just you, your thoughts, your doubts, and the quiet. This is the lonely chapter nobody talks about. At first, you think something is wrong. You ask yourself, why does nobody check on me anymore? Why do I feel disconnected from everyone? Why does it feel like I'm moving forward alone? And the silence answers nothing. But here's the truth. Most people never realize. Loneliness isn't a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're changing. Growth doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with validation. Growth happens in silence. And when you outgrow who you used to be, you naturally outgrow who used to surround you. Not because they're bad people, but because they belong to an older version of you. See, when you were comfortable, when you were predictable, when you were available for everyone, you were surrounded. But the moment you chose discipline over comfort, focus over distraction, and purpose over pleasure, the circle got smaller, the conversations got shorter, the invitations stopped coming, and the loneliness began. This is where most people quit. They mistake loneliness for rejection. They go back to old habits, old routines, old versions of themselves. Not because those things are good for them, but because they're familiar. Because familiarity feels safe, even when it's holding you back. But the lonely chapter isn't here to destroy you. It's here to rebuild you. This is the phase where you stop explaining yourself, because explanations drain energy. And in this chapter, your energy becomes valuable. You begin to understand something powerful. Not everyone deserves access to you anymore. You start waking up earlier, working when nobody is watching, improving without posting it online. You learn how to sit alone without reaching for distraction. No scrolling, no noise, no escape, just you and the work. And slowly, something changes inside you. The loneliness stops feeling empty. It starts feeling focused. You begin hearing your own thoughts again, your own instincts, your own voice. And that voice was drowned out for years by opinions, by expectations, by the need to fit in. Loneliness teaches you independence. It teaches you how to stand alone without approval. It teaches you how to move forward even when nobody believes in you. Because one day, when success shows up, when opportunity knocks, when pressure hits, you won't break. Because you've already survived worse. You survived the silence. Understand this. Everyone wants the reward. Very few are willing to endure the isolation required to earn it. This chapter builds discipline. It builds resilience. It builds emotional strength. But most importantly, it builds identity. You're no longer becoming who people expect. You're becoming who you need to be. And that transformation makes people uncomfortable because your growth reminds them of what they're avoiding. So they distance themselves, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something right. This chapter feels heavy. Nights feel longer. Motivation feels fragile. Doubt whispers louder than confidence. But hear this clearly. Breakdown often comes before breakthrough. Every strong version of you was built in moments like this. Moments of confusion. Moments of isolation. Moments where quitting felt easier than continuing. And yet, you stayed. You kept going when nobody clapped, when nobody noticed, when nobody understood. That decision, that's where your future self is born. One day, people will see the results. They'll ask how you became so focused, so disciplined, so mentally strong. They won't see this chapter. They won't feel this loneliness, but you will remember. So if you're here right now, if the silence feels loud, if the journey feels lonely, don't run from it. This chapter is forging something powerful inside you. This chapter is shaping your character, your mindset, your standards. This is the lonely chapter nobody talks about. And if you're living it, you're closer than you think. And this is where most people quit. Not because they're weak, but because this chapter feels endless. The silence gets louder, the nights feel longer, and the question keeps repeating in your mind. Is this even worth it? No applause, no encouragement, no one checking if you're okay. Just you and the weight of becoming someone you've never been before. This is the phase where you realize something painful. The people who love the old version of you can't understand the new one you're trying to build. So they drift, they misunderstand, they disappear, and suddenly you're alone. Not physically, but emotionally. You're surrounded by people, yet no one truly sees the battle you're fighting. This chapter doesn't break you loudly. It breaks you quietly, through unanswered messages, through nights where sleep won't come, through mornings where motivation feels forced. You still show up, you still work, but inside, you're exhausted. And that's when doubt starts whispering. Maybe you're doing too much. Maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you should go back to what's comfortable. But listen carefully. Comfort is the enemy in this chapter. Because the moment you go back, you don't just lose progress. You lose respect for yourself. That's why this phase hurts. Not because you're failing, but because you're outgrowing everything familiar. This chapter teaches you discipline without motivation. No hype, no speeches, no energy, just action, even when you feel empty. This is where habits replace feelings. This is where structure replaces emotion. This is where you learn to move forward, even when your heart is tired. And here's the truth. Nobody tells you. The loneliness isn't punishment, it's preparation. Because the next level of your life requires a version of you that doesn't need validation to continue. A version of you that can stand alone without falling apart. This chapter teaches you to listen inward, to trust your own voice when everyone else is silent, to keep going even when no one is watching. Because later, when success arrives, when people suddenly notice, when attention returns, you won't need it. You've already learned how to stand alone. And one day, quietly, unexpectedly, you'll realize something has changed. You don't feel desperate anymore. You don't chase approval anymore. You don't explain yourself anymore. You move differently. You think differently. You carry yourself differently. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. This is the lonely chapter nobody talks about. The chapter that forges discipline. The chapter that builds identity. The chapter that separates those who wish from those who become. And if you're in it right now, don't rush it. Don't escape it. Don't numb it. Endure it. Because this chapter ends only one way, with a version of you that no longer needs permission to become great. But here's what makes this chapter even harder. No one warns you how quiet transformation feels. Movies make it dramatic. People online make it look exciting. But real change happens in silence. No fireworks, no instant results, just repetition and patience. You wake up, you do the work, you go to sleep, again and again and again, and nothing seems to change. This is where impatience becomes your greatest enemy, because your mind starts measuring progress too early. You look at your life and think, I've been trying so hard, why does it still look the same? But what you don't see is what's happening inside you. Your standards are rising. Your tolerance for excuses is shrinking. Your discipline is quietly taking control. Even when you feel stuck, you're not. You're being restructured. This chapter strips illusions. You stop believing motivation will save you. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop expecting things to feel easy. Instead, you learn something far more powerful. You learn to move without emotion. You show up tired. You show up discouraged. You show up uncertain. And you still show up. That's when you stop being ordinary. Most people quit here, not because they can't do the work, but because they don't get feedback. No praise, no likes, no visible rewards, just effort. And effort without recognition feels pointless to a mind that hasn't learned discipline yet. But here's the truth. This chapter isn't designed to reward you. It's designed to change you, to remove the version of you that only works when conditions are perfect, to build the version of you that works regardless. This is where your identity begins to shift. You stop asking, do I feel like doing this? And start asking, who am I becoming if I don't? That question alone separates leaders from followers. Loneliness deepens here, not because people disappear, but because you no longer relate to the life you once lived. Old conversations feel empty. Old habits feel heavy. Old distractions feel meaningless. You're not better than anyone. You're just no longer compatible with who you were. And that realization hurts because growth requires grief. You grieve old versions of yourself. You grieve old relationships. You grieve old comfort. But you keep moving because deep down, you know going back would cost you everything. This chapter teaches you emotional control, not suppression, not pretending you're okay, but mastery. You learn how to feel pain without letting it decide your actions. You learn how to sit with discomfort without escaping it. You learn how to move forward even when confidence is missing. And slowly, something changes. Your reactions slow down. Your focus sharpens. Your energy becomes intentional. You don't waste words anymore. You don't chase attention anymore. You don't explain yourself anymore. You're too busy building. This is when life starts testing you differently. Not with chaos, but with temptation. Temptation to relax. Temptation to stop pushing. Temptation to settle because you've done enough. But you know better now. You know momentum is fragile, and discipline must be protected. This chapter turns you inward. You stop looking for approval outside because you finally trust yourself inside. You become someone who keeps promises, especially the ones nobody hears. And then, quietly, results begin to show. Not all at once, not dramatically, but consistently. And when they do, people will say, "You're lucky. You changed overnight. I always knew you'd make it." They didn't see this chapter. They didn't hear the silence. They didn't feel the doubt. They didn't fight the battles you fought alone, but you did. This is why this chapter matters. Because when success finally comes, it won't destroy you. You've already been tested without it.